Welcome to Paradigms at paradigms.life, the radio show and podcast that brings you inspiring people with visions of a viable future for life on Earth that includes humans. Hi, I'm Baruch. Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. My guests on this episode are two artists, a Jewish man and a Persian American woman, who have collaborated on a new song, which is a call for peace. We'll be talking with them about their music, the message, and hopefully what happens next. So let's meet them right now on this episode of Paradigms. Yvette Massoudi and David First, welcome to Paradigms.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's great to be here.
I'm so happy to talk with both of you. You've both just collaborated on a beautiful song, and in your own right, separately, you're both musicians making just beautiful, meaningful music that I can't wait to share with people. But before we get into that stuff, I would love to know a little bit of each of your story. How did you get to where you are? What's your life been about?
Songwriting for me is sort of coming full circle because that's how I started. Like so many millions of young kids and teenagers all over the world, I began playing guitar and writing songs back when that was the thing to do, you know, in the late mid 60s, seeing all the new bands that were coming up. And for some reason, I just started writing songs almost immediately. I just thought like, well, they're doing it, I guess I can try doing it. And the first few, when I remember the first few, let's say, I can hear clearly where I was stealing things from. But, you know, eventually you learn to hide your sources better. And if you keep on bringing in influences from other areas, they become hopefully a little bit more original. And like a lot of teenagers and you know, young adults during those same years, or maybe possibly a little later, I started getting into the more psychedelic sounds that were happening, and started listening to other kinds of music, started getting into certain kinds of jazz and experimental electronics, and I just got more and more enamored with that, especially when, you know, things weren't necessarily so interesting anymore in the rock realm for me, I suppose. I mean, so I started diving deeper into more experimental musics. And that's where I really began feeling my own originality growing. I had a band for a while called Note Killers, which was kind of I still have that band. It's on and off for all these years. It was a combination of all my influences. You know, there was a lot of free playing, but the songs had structures. They were noisy, but also melodic. And it was instrumental. I was the guitarist and it was bass and drums. It is. I don't know why I keep saying was, because it started then. This was while I was still living in Philadelphia, where I'm from. I eventually moved to New York and tapped into the more experimental scene that was going on here, which included a lot of, well, I still call it psychedelic music for me, because it's always about the same, you know, nature that I'm going for, the same experience that I originally discovered when I was a teen, but got into a lot of drone music, alternative tuning systems and all of that. But once in a while, especially in the last 20 years or so, when something urgent strikes a nerve in me, I feel the need to do something that's going to reach more of a societal level, I suppose, or reach out on a more societal level and hopefully reach them, and write songs that have more narrative, you know, obviously, and more something that can be grasped by more people. I mean, it's not like I feel like I'm pandering. I feel like I'm tapping into something I love doing. It's something that just doesn't well up in me unless I really feel that strong urge that's being, scratched, whichever that is. So that's about it in a nutshell, I suppose. That's where I am now.
Well, let's see. I guess if you want to start, since David started from childhood, I'll do the same. I don't know. As a kid, I was also very interested in rock music, and since I grew up in LA, there were always reruns of the Lawrence Welk Show on, and I happened to watch that all the time as a kid, which I find hilarious now. But watching that in American Bandstand and the Monkees as a kid growing up, I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. So I would take piano lessons as a kid, and then I just sort of performed just with my friends at like a friend's house. We would just do little things together, covers of little rock songs and things like that. And it wasn't until I got to college that I started playing in local bands in Massachusetts. And then in the 90s did a kind of real DIY indie rock thing and toured around a little bit and wrote songs collaboratively. But it wasn't until I moved to New York that I felt like I could really kind of pursue my own interests, because it felt like there was more, there was a wider variety of music that, people were doing. So I found that, being in the right place where there were a lot of different types of artists helped me be able to expand and grow that way. So, I played in a number of bands in the East Village, but then I started to get a little bit more experimental because it was always something I was interested in when I was studying music in my college days too. So, and I started to write some of my own music. A band I had for a few years called Bird Brain, which was all horns and vocals. And then, I didn't want anybody to carry equipment because I actually got very bad tendonitis. So I didn't want anyone else to have to carry anything. And it was a lot of fun. I actually miss it. Then I started to write songs. I guess I got very obsessed with certain more family issues, and I would write songs about things with my family and kind of a more, what do you want to say, claustrophobic feeling that I would get thinking about family, and also female obsessions and with cleaning and shopping and things like that. I did another record that was songs about the mysteries of housework and nature under a different moniker I called Her, which at the time, people, friends said to me, nobody's going to be able to find that in an internet search. Well, now we see there's another big artist with that. So, but then after a while, I found that, songwriting for me has always been a struggle, not only because it's an interesting challenge, but because it would always keep me up at night. And since I often worked a day job, it became a little bit tough. So I sort of put it aside, and I got more interested in playing in other people's groups. So I played for quite a bit in Peter Zumo's ensembles. He's a trombonist and composer. And that's how David and I met, is we played in one of his ensembles together. And then at the same time, so Peter was working with me in my groups. The project that I'm working on now that I've been doing for the past 10 years has been a group called Mitra Sumara, which I lead and arrange work of rearrangements of 60s and 70s Iranian pop songs, music from before the Iranian Revolution, which I started doing because on a personal note, I'm an adoptee and I'm half Iranian by birth. And I spent many years of my life looking for my Iranian father. And it was not long after I found him that I decided to start that group. So I discovered that music while I was looking for him, for various expatriate websites on the internet. And I fell in love with the music, even when I couldn't understand or read or speak Persian, which I still don't speak well, but I can read and I can sing it too.
I'm talking with David First and Yvette Massoudi. They've collaborated on a new song, which we'll hear in a little bit. But first, I wanted to play some of their music that they've made separately. So we're going to hear a couple of tracks and then get back to more conversation, and then we're going to hear the song they made together. We're going to start out with a song called Photograph from David First's band New Party Systems, and then we'll hear something from Yvette Massoudi's musical project Mitra Sumara, and then we'll be back with more conversation. So let's get into the music. You're listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life.
تو قصه هایی مثل رقص با شکوه پرنده هایی توی آواز قشنگی تو یک صدایی تو به پاپی تموم قصیده هایی
We just heard Mitra Sumara with the song Arus Nogre Push from the album Dream. And before that we heard New Party Systems song Photograph from the album The Best We Can. And now let's get back to my conversation with Yvette Massoudi and David First. Both of you are making music that has conscience in it, that speaks to the human condition and to specifically what is happening with humanity right now, it seems to me. I listened to the Mitra Sumara album Dream this morning, and I listened to a bunch of music David sent me from New Party Systems, and it's all perfect timing given, what shall we call it, the madness of the world, right now. And we're recording this the day after Easter, all three of the Abrahamic religions having big festivals this week, and all three of the Abrahamic religions involved in murderous, oppressive activities on the planet right now, and really doing a number on humanity. And, not to bring us down, but that's what's going on, or a big part of what's going on. And so I'm interested in your message. People get it from the music, but I also want to just offer you this space to say what it is that you want people to get.
I think it all boils down to me. I'm going to try to make a simple answer out of something that expresses the idea that there's no simple answer, I suppose. But that's what seems to be the crux of the problem for me, is everybody taking sides and hardening their positions and demanding a simple answer. And the simple answer seems to be it's the other person's fault. And everything will just be fine if we get rid of that other person, be it, one-to-one situation or a neighborhood or a country or, however big you want to make that equation. And that's what I see all the time anymore, is the other side is lying. The other side, it's all the other side's fault. And it's just not that simple. It's never that simple. And that's what I was dealing with. If we're going to talk about the specific song, Next of Kin, that brought us here, I was just really at a loss. Not that I feel like everybody's waiting for a statement from me and I had to make one. But, everybody was making statements, on social media and in the mainstream media. And it felt like to not make a statement was making a statement, by default, which is like, it just felt untenable to me for some reason. And I felt a strong urge to do so. But I didn't know what it was going to be necessarily because I was confused. It was it's still super confusing to me. You read this happened, but then that happened before that. But then that happened at the same time. And then this happened over there. And everybody points to whatever they want to point to support the conclusions they've already come to. It's not like they're looking for new information. And if they're looking for new information, they're only looking for new information that will further support their position. And it's horrible because I don't want to say it doesn't matter, like historically, what has happened in the world, but you can find wrong anywhere. You can find people who did the wrong thing, who are living in the wrong place where they don't belong, everywhere on this planet, and I don't want to say people are hypocritical, but they just don't want to look any further than what already makes them feel good about themselves, which seems pretty natural, I suppose, but it doesn't get us anywhere a lot of the time.
We pay a high price for all that self-aggrandizement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I was so glad that David reached out to me about this song, because his perspective is not the one that you commonly hear in other music or on social media or in other platforms, because he's talking about this other perspective that so many people feel they can't really speak, can't really mention anything other than if you don't take a specific stand, then you're just as bad as the rest of them, whoever they're talking about, whomever. So that's why I really love this song, because it's about peace. It's about, hey, look, we can keep going back and forth like this, like we've been doing for a long time, but what's really going to happen? What's going to be different? How is it going to change? And it's without blaming any one side, because this whole situation is way more nuanced than most people really realize anyway. Most, Americans, I would like to think. So that's why I think the lyrics are beautiful. And I was so excited when David called me about it. I hope that there have been other people who can find a connection to this situation and other, situations like this through this song.
I'm talking with Yvette Massoudi and David First, and here's the song they've collaborated on together. It's called Next of Kin.
A
That's David First with his band New Party Systems and Yvette Massoudi with the song Next of Kin. Now let's get back to my conversation with David and Yvette and hear some more about the making of this song and other things. This is Paradigms at paradigms.life. Creativity and the arts have always been part of how humans express ourselves about what we're experiencing, and whether it's personal, love songs or political songs or spiritually uplifting, it's all about expressing what humans are and how we experience our own existence. And that's really good because it means we get to look at ourselves. We get to look in the mirror and go, how am I doing? How are we doing? It seems like we're in a period in many, many aspects of human existence of specialization, whether it's scientific specialization or everyone's got a very specialized job or a very specialized sense of politics or a very, shall we say, blinders in looking at how we look at things, tunnel vision. And, we know that humans, as we progress through, I'd like to call it evolution, there are pendulums that swing, politically, personally, religious, all those things. And so we've got all this specialization going on, which is great and informs us of so much. And yet at the same time, then one can lose track of the big picture, which is we are all kin. We are all here together. And ultimately, we are interdependent, whether one wants to be or not, we are. I exhale, the tree breathes in and breathes out oxygen. I breathe that in. I mean, life is all one web of connection. And so are our politics. And so if we can find ways to acknowledge all that specialization, which I guess we could call tribalism in this context, without losing track of the fact that all those tribes are kin to each other and that we are in this together. I'm saying all this in a clunky kind of way, but hoping that, humanity rediscovers itself, that we rediscover our sisters and brothers are our sisters and brothers. And so that is what this art is bringing forth. That's what your music brings forth, both in the song Next of Kin, but in all the music that you all have put out. It's about that. I mean, I was listening to all the New Party System stuff, David, and it's all this uplifting, looking at, energy, looking at connection, and so I just wanted to bring that to listeners because I think it's so important.
I would love to think that we could be, catalysts for that. And I guess I don't do it, with total futility, a feeling of futility. So I guess on some level, I think it's possible to introduce some of that into the world, to get back to the idea of reinforcing our own beliefs. I tend to hear back from people who are looking for that answer, and that's maybe the best you can hope to do. We didn't do this song with the idea we were going to change the hearts and minds of hard-hearted people. We did it to give the people who were open to something other than what they're presented, give them something to feel good about, just to feel like they're not alone. Sometimes that's the best you can do. And I got a lot of very nice responses from friends saying, thank you. This is, some called it brave. I don't know. It's weird that it's brave because all you're doing is saying, hey, let's be kind or let's think of something other than hate. It's brave not to take one side or the other. That's about the best I can think, as far as trying to figure out what's brave about it. But also there was perhaps the most gratifying responses I received was I sent the song to different organizations that were trying to literally do brave things, which is to bring Palestinians and Israelis together. And I got really nice responses from them thanking us for the song. And boy, I don't know what they're going through these days, although I just got something this morning from one of them, the Road to Recovery, which is this organization of Israelis that literally drive Palestinians to Israeli hospitals if they need treatments and different types of, different medical treatment. And they're still at it. not in Gaza. This is in the West Bank at this point, of course, because they can't do it any longer. I have no idea what those organizations are going through. They must be, really looking at each other and feeling like throwing up their hands. But on the other hand, you can't do that either. So I guess they're trying their best. But there are people on, dare I say, on both sides, if we have to look at it that way, that are trying to reach across and give everybody, some physical support and also some emotional hope, sense of hope that there could be another way. And there has to be, because the alternative is more horror.
We'll be back with the final part of my conversation with David First and Yvette Massoudi, but we're going to hear some more music now. Here's New Party Systems with Cradle of Life.
Pulled straight out the door to cradle, us in the full face crying, burping milk while learning the full tilt, working to claim your playtime, cut off from the navel cable, clinging to hurried worries, vested tricks confirming your fortune, stormed by the untamed dangers. Here's to a new life starting.
هر کلامش طلوعی تازه باشه اما تنهایی ما به یک اندازه باشه اون کسی که خواستن اون
با همه فرق داشته باشه
هرچی که از اون بخونم
چه دلتنگی نباشه
کسی که برای خوندن نشسته تو سینه من نفسهاش هوای عشقه سکوتش صدای عشقه اون که از نهایتش منو با اسمم بخونه منو جزئی از وجودش یهوده خودش بدونه اون که گم شده از آغاز تا که من تنها بمونم جدی جستجوهاما تا قیامت بکشونم کسی که
همیشه عاشق
مثل من
دیوونه باشه
تو دنیا
اگه نباشه
تو آینه
تونه باشه
کسی که هر کلامش طلوعی تازه باشه اما تنهایی ما به یک اندازه باشه اون که از نهایتش منو با اسمم بخونه منو جزئی از وجودش یهوده خودش بدونه اون که گم شده از آغاز تا که من تنها بمونم جدی جستجوهاما تا قیامت بکشونم کسی که
همیشه عاشق
مثل من
دیوونه باشه
تو دنیا
اگه نباشه
تو آینه
تونه باشه
کسی که هر کلامش طلوعی تازه باشه اما تنهایی ما به یک اندازه باشه
From the album Dream, that's Mitra Sumara. The song is called Nimye Gomshade Man. Before that, we heard New Party Systems with Cradle of Life. And now here's the final part of my conversation with David First and Yvette Massoudi. Yvette, with Mitra Sumara, and Dream, and bringing back some of the popular music from pre-fundamentalist religious revolution in Iran, and being a woman singing these songs, you're making a very powerful statement in support of liberation. And my guess is they won't be playing this album on the radio in Tehran.
No, probably no. I mean, I hope not, because I mean, I'd like it, but at the same time, the album's called Dream, and it's our second album. And the first album I did in 2018, which was, in the height of after meeting my, of family connection and things. And but this one, I was inspired by one of the biggest singers of the day. Her name was Ramesh, and she died during the pandemic. And I was thinking about her a lot, and I thought, wow, I think it'd be really nice to do some of her songs in my next record. And when we were in the middle of working on the record, after we finished recording all the basic tracks, that's when Masa Amini was murdered. So the record was still in production. And, and even though I was, one reason why I wanted to start doing this group was because I felt like a lot of non-Iranians had no idea that this music existed in Iran, that there was this really vibrant scene before the mullahs took over. And I thought the music was so exciting for many reasons, but a lot because it was very international in itself and incorporated beats from different countries around the world, influences from all over, with a Middle Eastern spin and the same poetry in the lyrics, pop lyrics that you might find in literary Persian poetry, which I thought was really interesting. So doing this second album, Dream, felt more poignant after Masa Amini, because it does really point to the fact that now you cannot have women singing as soloists in Iran. You have to be very careful. Women can't dance in public. People aren't really supposed to dance in public. And in fact, we just passed Iranian New Year, which comes with the spring equinox, Nowruz, which is a 2-week holiday, and it starts with the spring equinox. And many other countries in the region celebrate Nowruz too, in Turkey and Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, many other countries around there. But what happened recently is, the mullah said, well, maybe we celebrate Nowruz a little less now, because they want to stop the old Persian cultural, holidays. They're not holidays rooted in Islam. They're more, I guess you might call them pagan holidays or date back to Zoroastrian times. So it's really, regime is not friendly, to say the least. And, and if you are a musician, your music has to be approved by the government in order to be allowed to record or perform in public. So you have to get a permit from the government. So they have to approve it. And so, that also takes on many forms too. So really, to be an artist there, to be a woman there, you're at risk all the time, not just an encounter with the police, but actually your life.
Yeah. Well, it's gutsy for you to put out that record.
Well, I mean, I'm putting it out in the US. So, it's not really, I don't feel like it's gutsy. I mean, I feel like it's gutsy that, I'm an American doing this. I do feel a little, I don't know, obnoxious. Is that the right word? But I mean, there is a special meaning for me, because like sometimes I do feel funny that, I'm not Iranian national by birth. And so I'm putting a different spin on it. So I do wonder, times if it feels like some people might say, oh, well, you're not authentic, but I feel like my feelings about it are very authentic. So I think it challenges a lot of people's world music view, to be honest. So, because, it does change the notion of, well, what is authenticity when there is still same heartfelt meaning behind it? But, that's why, I do my own arrangements.
Our ethnic and various identities are important, but at this point in the world, we know that we share this very finite space. And so those identities, to my thinking, need to be celebrated, but not exclusively of each other, but together, all of them, And so when you bring us, okay, so you're part Persian ethnically, but that cultural paradigm is part of who you are, but also the American paradigm. So you're bringing those together. I think that has authenticity.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I guess maybe since, you have such a beautiful theme to your show, I'll just mention also, it's kind of the plight of most adoptees in this country, especially. I can't speak for others, but in this country, because my generation of adoptees, closed adoption was the standard, the norm. And even to this day, most states in this country, at least 40, maybe it's 38 now, have closed record policies. So I was born in California, and unfortunately, the state of California still does not allow adoptees open access to their original birth records. So when you're born and you get your birth certificate, everybody has your birth parents on it, your parents. And when you were born, in the attending physician and all of that in the hospital you're born in. But once you're adopted, that document is locked away And they amend it so that it looks like your adoptive parents were your parents all along. There are many reasons behind that, but the problem is that it opens up a lot of challenges for adopted people because, well, first of all, people who might have been lied to and told that were not told that they were adopted. And then for those of us who knew that we were adopted, you feel like you've been lied to, and it's like state sanctioned falsification of records, and you're never allowed to find out who your parents are. So it's almost seen as somewhat illegal to find out who your biological family, it's illegal to find out your origins. Sure, now you can do 23andMe and all of that DNA, but as far as years, and it goes the same for birth parents, they can't find their kids. So it's really a raw deal all around. And, the only way that you can get your original documents in California anyway is to petition a judge. And fortunately, I was successful in doing that, but many others are not. So even if you're 70, 80 years old and you want to know who your birth parents were, unless you have a very good reason, like you need an organ donor transplant, for donor transplant, your chances of getting it are pretty slim. So, and even though your parents may not be alive anymore, they don't care. It's really terrible. And it pains me because California is seen as a very liberal state. And they did this at the time to protect women, which I understand because, at that time, in the 60s, when I was born in the late 60s, women were still sent away. It was a shame on the family to be unmarried and pregnant as a young woman. So we've come a long way for women's rights, even though now they seem to be going a little bit backwards, a lot bit backwards. For that, times have changed, fortunately. So women, being unmarried and pregnant doesn't carry the same shame that it used to. So it's unfortunate that the laws have not progressed in order to honor that, because I do believe that for many of these birth mothers, it would be really a healing opportunity for them to be able to find their kids.
David First, Yvette Massoudi, thank you so much for being on Paradigms, for talking with me. Really enjoyed the conversation. And, it's just it's a snippet of a huge conversation. And thanks for being here.
No, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much, Baruch. This was really great. Thank you.
Yvette Massoudi, David First, thank you so much for talking with me about your new song, Next of Kin, about your call for peace, and just your thoughts about the world. It was a great conversation. And your musical collaboration is really good. Next of Kin is a good song. Let's hope people listen to it and take it to heart. Folks, if you'd like to know more about these artists, you can learn about Yvette Massoudi and her band Mitra Sumara at the website mitrasumara.com, mitrasumara.com. And David First's website is davidfirst.com. You can also hear more from New Party Systems by going to newpartysystems.bandcamp.com. And of course, the new song Next of Kin can be found on YouTube with the lyrics. All these links can be found on the Paradigms website, paradigms.life. I hope you'll check out Yvette Massoudi and David First, listen to more of their music, and really tune into this song, Next of Kin. And if you enjoyed this episode of Paradigms, I hope you'll visit the Paradigms website, paradigms.life, where all of our episodes are archived. And if you scroll to the bottom of that page, there's a link to my new audiobook, The Prophet by Khalil Gibran, narrated by Starhawk. I hope you'll check that out as well. Let us all call for peace. Let us all recognize that we are kin, all of us, to each other. Even the people we disagree with the most vehemently are literally our cousins. Family members can squabble and fight, but the killing has to stop. How can we even consider ourselves civilized with all this violence going on? I mean, really, let's be peacemakers. All right. I am going to leave you with one more track of music to close out the show, and this is from Mitra Sumara's album Dream. It's called Asmar Asmar. And let's let the word for the week be peace. Let us call for peace, envision peace, make peaceful choices. Let peace be the direction in which we move. All right. Baruch signing off for this episode of Paradigms. We'll be back next time with more inspiring people. Until then, peace and be well. You've been listening to Paradigms at paradigms.life.